All right, guys. Thank you all for being here. Today we're going to talk about work health and safety.
Work health and safety.
So it's I think it's a very important subject. I want to ask someone. I'll ask Joseph. What do you think when you hear the word work health and safety? What comes to mind?
The specific procedure that we need to take care before using any equipment or entering the facilities to make everyone safe.
To make everyone safe. So work health and safety is to make people safe, okay?
Yes.
All right, so an overview of today. We're going to be looking at the purpose of work health and safety. We're also going to look at the legislation of work health and safety. We're going to talk a bit about personal safety. We'll talk about manual handling, okay? We'll talk about workplace practices, vehicle safety, hazardous materials, and emergency procedures. All make up work health and safety. What we do today, okay, there'll be more detail in your book, okay? You've got your automotive mechanic book. What's in that book there will make up for anything that we miss out, so I would recommend that you have a look at that book. Okay, we'll just have a quick look at this video.
Each year, nearly 200 workers are killed at work, and more than 100,000 workers are compensated for serious work-related injuries. Preventable work-related injuries and illnesses costs the Australian economy an estimated $61.8 billion each year. As a national policy body, Safe Work Australia shapes healthier, safer and productive workplaces. We do this by developing and improving national work health and safety and workers' compensation arrangements. Our 15 Safe Work Australia members form an inclusive tripartite forum. Members work together to ensure the interests of Commonwealth, state and territory governments, workers and employers are considered. An agency of just over 100 staff supports the work of Safe Work Australia. We are a small agency, but our work can affect the lives of 12.5 million working Australians. Our work continues on from that of the Australian Safety and Compensation Council and the National Occupational Health and Safety Commission, who led work health and safety in Australia from 2005 to 2008 and 1985 to 2005 respectively. Safe Work Australia is committed to developing trusted, consistent and evidence-informed work health and safety and workers' compensation policy, so that every Australian worker can lead a healthy, safe and productive working life.
All right. The purpose, we'll check out what the purpose of work health and safety. Okay, the purpose of a safe work procedure is to reduce the risk of health and safety in the workshop. That's it in a nutshell, to reduce risk. We can't take away the total risk. We can just walk out on the street, on the footpath and get run over by a car, can't we? You know, there's risks about everything we do in life, but if we limit those risks, if we walk on the road, we're going to run a higher risk of getting hit by a car than if we walk on the footpath. If we put good practices in our workplace, we're going to lessen the risk of work accidents, right? I was driving yesterday and I was coming along a road and I was in two lanes and I was in my left lane and this car in the right lane decided to come into my lane, didn't see me. I just assumed he would see me, you know. My reaction was, he's going to see me and pull back, but he didn't. I had to hit my brakes, I had to pull into the gutter, and it was a miracle he didn't hit me. I don't know how he didn't hit me, but you know, accidents happen through carelessness, you know. If he had waited a bit longer to take and change lanes and taken more care, it wouldn't have been a near accident. Fortunately, it wasn't an accident. When the early days, when the Sydney Harbour Bridge got built, okay, it was built and opened in about 1932. It took about 9 years, I think, to build. Over that 9-year period, there was 16 work-related deaths on that building of that bridge, of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. You probably don't realise that if you see the Sydney Harbour Bridge. We see it as an icon, don't we? Yes. But 16 lives got lost. 14 of those lives fell off the bridge when working and landed very high fall. They fell and lost their lives. 2 of them lost their lives in the quarry that was getting the materials, the resource materials to do the building. So there were work-related accidents there. Who knows our Story Bridge across the Brisbane River? Everyone's seen the Story Bridge? It's I like it. It's a really characteristic bridge. But you know, there's a placard on that bridge somewhere that is a memorial for 3 lives that got lost on that bridge. That bridge was opened, I think, in 1940, so it's still talking back, quite a while ago. But on that building of the bridge, one person in, I think it was about 1937, fell and slipped and landed on the ground. Another person, probably in 1937, I think it was 1937 too, fell and landed in the water. They rescued that person, but he never recovered. 4 hours later, he died in hospital, so yeah. And the last person that died, okay, this is ironic. This last person that died in 1939, he was working and a beam hit him. Some of the workers were working with beams, putting them in place. This beam knocked him and he fainted and fell to his death in the water. Ironically, maybe a year and a half before that accident, he was a hero because he'd saved someone from falling himself. So he saved someone's life in a way, but lost his own life in the same manner. Why am I telling you all this? Do we see bridges being built around Australia at the moment and around Brisbane and everywhere where we go? We do, don't we? Do we hear of these accidents happening nowadays?
No.
We don't, do we? I'm not saying they don't happen, but we don't hear because I don't think it's a very common thing now. Why is it not a common thing? Because we are more conscious in the workplace for safety. We put things in place so that hopefully we don't have these accidents and we save lives. So is work health and safety something that we need?
Yes, sir.
And it's something that's good?
Yes, sir.
Do we think it's an overkill with some of the things in our workplace that we do? No one's answering.
Yes.
We do think it's an overkill.
No, sir, no.
Good answer. So yeah, we want a safe workplace so that we can be much more confident that we're not going to have an accident. Accidents still happen, but when an accident happens, we make such a deal about it to try and prevent it from happening again. So yeah. All right. Our government also believe that work health and safety is important. So much so that they've legislated legislative requirements for every business that's involved in a business to work under these procedures, okay? Not only is our federal government behind this, but also our state government. Every state implements what the federal government has put into legislation. So we have the regulation of 2011, okay, and it's defined as an act to be implemented. And who is responsible for the safety? If we look here, we've got a code of practice which further defines the way activities should be carried out to prevent injury, okay? So we have a procedure the government put out. Every business will use those procedures and implement them, and obviously some businesses will require different procedures for the different types of risks they have in their businesses, but we all live under that legislation and the states control that legislation for us. There are heavy fines if we fail to apply ourselves to those regulations, okay? So if you go to the website, you can see that this same act, the Work Health and Safety Act of 2011, has been amended. It's been amended 8 times, and they keep adding to it to make it a safer workplace. So it's not just an act that happened in 2011 and that's it forever and a day. It keeps getting adjusted as we see requirements to be adjusted. So to give you an idea of the different states and their control, they go under different names. Most states are calling themselves safe work And if you look at Queensland, somewhere there's Queensland, we call it Work Health and Safe Queensland, but it's just a name for the department that look after our work health and safety requirements, to look over the businesses that they are complying. Normally, if you don't have proper work health and safety implemented in your business, normally what happens is, when an accident happens, it is bad news for whoever hasn't been complying properly. It's really serious news, okay? You will get fined, you will get prosecuted, you could even go to jail if you're not, particularly the person operating a business could go to jail because they're not implementing the right requirements for work health and safety. Hands up if you work in a business that you've been inducted into work health and safety education. So a few of you, all right? Yeah, quite a few of you. Hands up if you do work in a workplace that hasn't done that to you in your workplace. So there's a few. That's sad. That's sad for that workplace, because they will be liable if you have an accident, very likely. Okay, so this legislation, if we break it down a little bit now, we look at it, and under the Act, the person responsible as an employer is now referred to as a PCBU.
PCBU.
PC, what? PCB now. So, what's PCBU stand for? It is a person conducting business or undertaking. Okay? It's a broader sense than just someone who owns a business. If you've got a manager in a business who's undertaking business for the owner, that person's responsible. If you're a manager and you've got staff under you, you're responsible. Okay, so a person conducting business or undertaking, the definition now has a broader implication. The PCBU is responsible for all people who are within the workplace to carry out activities in the workplace, including visitors to that workplace. So if you have customers coming to your workplace, if you have contractors coming to your workplace, anyone that comes into your workplace has to be, means that that person who's undertaking the business in that workplace is responsible for them. It's a big responsibility. Okay? An employee, including a volunteer, is referred to as a worker. So even if you're not getting paid, you come under that act if you're involved in that workplace. Okay? If we as students come to the workplace that we go to, okay, I'm an undertaker because I'm undertaking a role of bringing you into that workplace to undertake work. I'm responsible for you. But also, David, who's at that workplace, is responsible for you. So is whoever owns that business is responsible. We are all responsible. Everyone is responsible, and you're responsible to keep yourself safe. Okay? A worker must take reasonable care of his own safety and the safety of other persons within the workplace. There was a question recently in one of your assessments. Who can remember that question? It was talking about as long as you look after the safety of others, it wasn't so important about your own safety. The question was around that sort of a subject. Do you remember that question? How many got that wrong? Some of you did, I know. We're all responsible for our own safety, okay? It's very important that we look after ourselves and we look after others. How can we look after others? If we're careless, for example, in the workplace, and we leave an oil spill on the ground and ignore it, or if we leave a hose or an electric lead or anything on the ground, laying on the ground, and somebody trips over it, who's responsible? Anyone like to guess who's responsible?
The one who saw it and did not clean it.
Exactly, the one that left the mess there, the one that didn't pick up after themselves. That means you're responsible. You have affected the safety of other staff in the work area. So we have to be mindful of those things. Okay, a clean workshop is a very efficient workshop because we know where things are, but more so, it's a safe workshop. Okay. A workplace is anywhere. Okay. Oh, sorry. A workplace is anywhere work is carried out conducted, including locations outside of your work premises. I'm thinking a bit more into this, and I'm thinking, I heard Vishwa tell me he went over to Alvin's place and did a little job on his car. Do you think that Alvin is responsible to be safe? Do you think Vinish is responsible to be safe for himself, even though he's not in a normal workplace?
Vinish.
Did I say Vishwa, sorry. Vishwa. Do you think Vishwa is responsible for his own safety in those circumstances?
Yes.
Do you think work health and safety, by reading what I've just read out there, applies to you even in your own house when you're doing business with someone else, even if it's not paid business? So yeah, it's important to be safe. Okay. Who the other day didn't have safety boots? Who was it that didn't have safety boots that came into work? Sorry? No, I know you did, Carlo. And who else was it? Someone went and bought some. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But the reason I can't let you come into the workplace is it's a requirement for work health and safety that we have safety boots. Okay? And if I let you in there and you have an accident, who's in trouble? And both of us. Okay? So does that make sense? All right? All right, so each state, so we've got all our states and territories. They have their own variation of work health and safety, but it's still under the same framework as the federal law. So it's still covered by the federal law, but they may imply different fines, they may imply different ways of policing it, but simply that we are all under work health and safety as a federal thing, okay? But it's the state implemented. All right, what's a work health and safety committee? Anyone like to guess? What's a work health and safety committee?
It's a WHS committee.
It's a what?
Committee that is sent by the company to look after the employees.
All right, not quite right. Not quite right.
They make the rules.
Not quite right.
No,
They don't make the rules.
Okay, we normally see a work health and safety committee in a bigger business where there's a lot more people. If you're in a small working place, which most of you probably are, you probably don't need a work health and safety committee because the management is always in contact with the staff and the staff are communicating to the management, and we should be having meetings about work health and safety quite regularly to make sure everyone's up to date. If the business is running correctly, that's what will happen. I used to have a meeting in my business quite regularly with my staff, and we'd talk about things. We'd see if there was a way we could do things more safer. We'd talk about risk, different types of risk in their work, and we tried to minimise or eliminate risk, okay? The committee in a big organisation, because there's so many staff, often as a committee is formed as the mechanism to communicate with the management, because often the management and the staff are in two different areas and it's very hard for the staff to voice their opinions about things. Most committees are made up of roughly 50% of the staff, generally speaking. It can be up to 50% at least. There will always be a representative from management, okay, as part of it, and usually they elect a special representative, a health and safety representative, as a voice from the committee to the management to try and be the go-between, okay? So committees are very important and they work well in a bigger organisation. So that's what a committee does, okay? All right, there may be a question about committees in your assessment. Okay, so if you look at this particular paragraph, the health and safety representative, which is known as the HSRs, could be two, might not be one, okay, but in most cases one, and the person conducting business or undertakings, representatives, such as a senior manager who have a necessary position to important decisions. At least 50% of the individuals of the committee must be workers. These committees also automatically include a health safety representative, unless that health safety representative opts out to participate, which I can't see would work if he did opt out, so I don't know, but that's what it says. But 50% is probably the most you'll see in a committee, okay, of workers.
Yeah.
Okay, could be less, but at least 50%. So here we have an example of what a committee looks like. Okay, here we have the workers that are outside of the committee. Inside the committee we have half the workers. We have the work health and safety representative. We have the management up here. Okay, and the management then relay between the work health and safety representative to the general manager, who then talks to the management board. So that's roughly the structure of a committee. Okay, is anyone in a bigger place that has a committee?
DoorDash.
I can't hear.
Food delivery.
DoorDash.
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 What's DoorDash?
It's like a Uber.
Uber Eats.
Oh, Uber.
Uber Eats.
Oh,
Deliver food.
oh, okay. Who's driving for them?
Every.
Oh, okay. So you have a work health committee?
Yeah, big committee, sir.
Okay, there you go. Do you talk to the work health and
Only a
safety
female
representative?
person.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Take
All right. We'll talk about personal safety. Okay? I said before, we're all responsible for our own safety. Doesn't mean that your employee doesn't also have a role to play, but you have a role. Okay? So you have to look after yourself to prevent personal injury. Okay? We must follow work procedures. Has anyone read our work procedures here at our college?
Yeah.
You haven't? Everyone's showing. We have our procedures at college, which when you go for your orientation, I would have thought they would have shown you those
Oh,
policies.
yes.
Yeah.
They have?
Yeah.
That's good.
Orientation day.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, so it's important because there's processes here at the college. If we have an emergency, we need to know what to do. Okay? Who knows what to do if we have an evacuation? Does everyone know where to meet if we have to evacuate?
Pending.
Yes.
You do? Good. Do you know there's an evacuation plan on the wall in a couple of places outside?
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yes, sir.
One is there.
Good. Okay, so we follow those procedures. What is SOP?
SOP.
So, who watches themselves? SOP stands for Safe Operation, Safe Operation Procedures. Okay. So if we're working car hoist, which is is an equipment, there'll be a safe operation procedure for that hoist. And there will also be a placard or a sticker on that hoist giving us the safety measures that we need to use to operate that hoist safely. Every piece of equipment in the workplace that is like a machine or an equipment has to have some, can we listen please? Has to have something to give us the procedure to use it safely. Even our floor jack, we drag our floor jack around, there's a sticker on there telling us the SWL, the safe working load of that jack, to how much load we can put on that jack so we don't overload it. So there is a safe operation on all our equipment, and there should be a manual in the office somewhere giving us more safety procedures where needed, okay? So we need to keep that in mind. We need to assess each job as it comes along. What sort of risk do we have with this job? Is it safe to jack it where we were? Who jacked up a car the other day that had to go crook at? Where's Lawrence? Remember you were jacking up in an unsafe place and I had to stop you? So we have to be, I shouldn't pick on people, should I? Sorry, Lawrence. But we need to be looking at where we're jacking, okay? We need to be using a solid, we should be jacking where the OEM manufactured spot for jacking up. We should be using those spots. If we can't jack there has to be a solid area where there's reinforcement to jack, okay? Very important to use the jack correctly. We need to follow housekeeping practices. What's housekeeping practices? Sorry?
Clean as you go.
Clean as you go. Exactly. We need to be tidy. So do we understand a clean workshop is a safe workshop?
Yeah.
It's less likely to have clatter. If we have a fire, we can get out because the way is clear for us to get out. If we need to find the what do they call it, first aid kit. We need to know where we can get that. All those things need to be in clear vision. All our fire extinguishers need to be clear so we can get to them. All those things, okay? And we don't want to have trip hazards on the ground. So if things are left on the ground, we trip over them easily. We don't want that. Okay, continuing with personal safety, okay, in the workplace depends on your awareness of potential threats and risks, as well as your employer's safe policies and procedures. Okay, by giving some thought to managing the risks, you can make yourself safer on the job. Okay, so if you guys, okay, if you guys put a car on a hoist, okay, and we just lift it up in the air, okay, and it's unstable, is that a risk?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So how do we prevent that as a risk?
Check the engine before you use the car.
We check the car stable before it goes up for a hoist.
Yes, sir.
We check the car, and we also double check we've got the hoist in the right place,
Yeah, in the right
okay, when we
place.
go up. So that's just one of many examples, but we need to assess everything and make sure we're safe. If we jack a car up, we're going to jack under the right place. We're going to double check before we jack up. We might line up the jack, but double check. When we jack up the car, we're going to put what under the car? Jack stands. Correct. Okay. If we've got to undo something that's really tight,
Yes.
and we've got the car jacked up,
Yes.
and we can't get enough leverage to pull it, are we going to keep doing that? Or if we've got an empty hoist, are we going to change our tactic and put the car on the hoist so we got more leverage underneath the car?
Yes, sir.
So all those sort of things we assess before we do the job, okay? All right. Another part of our personal safety. What'd you say, Abby?
Huh?
What'd you say, Abby? I can't hear you, Abby.
Oh.
Abby, speak up. Speak up. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Okay, that's what happens if we don't have our earmuffs on in our workplace. I have a little bit of what's called industrial deafness. When I did my apprenticeship and when I did my time in the workshops, we weren't educated. Okay, we didn't have a class like this. We didn't understand the need to put earmuffs on, and we had a lot of industrial noise around. We had air compressors, we had air guns going off, we had all sorts of noise, tyre machines going off. Over the years, it's caused, I'm not bad, but I do have a little bit of deafness. If you talk to me in a situation where we're in a restaurant and there's a lot of noise, I will be very hard to hear what you're saying. Okay? I have had an ear test and I am probably advised to get ear what do you call them? Hearing aids, but I don't think I'm bad enough. Maybe I'm in denial, probably I am. But honestly, there's no need for that. If I had been sensible in my work days, what happens is if we have a lot of noise, continuous noise over time, we end up losing some of our hearing. So we need to be mindful of that. Not only do we need earmuffs, where do we put our compressor, our workshop compressor? Outside. Why do we put it outside? To annoy our neighbours? No. We do have to be mindful of our neighbours as well. But we put it outside to keep the noise to a minimum. If we can't put it outside, or if we do have neighbours next door, what else can we do? What else could we do to keep the noise to a minimum? Build a soundproof room, okay, and put the compressor in. There's ways of avoiding noises that we didn't know about when we had our compressor in a service station I worked at in the early days in the storeroom right next to the workshop. And we could close the door, but we used to always have it open, and it was quite loud in the workshop. We didn't know back then. All right. Also, skin. If we're working outdoors, we want to cover ourselves with sun lotion. We also want to wear protective clothes for our skin. If we're working in chemicals, we want to wear gloves that are suitable. We want to protect our body. If we're doing welding, we probably have a leather apron on if we're welding. Okay, so all those things need to be considered. Probably long sleeves would be a good idea too if we're delving in a lot of oily, greasy things to stop us from contaminating our skin. Footwear we've talked about. Face mask and safety glasses if it's grinding. I can't tell you how many times I ended up at the Royal Brisbane Hospital because of metal in my eyes when I was young.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't have glasses then, and I'd grind, and I'd get something in my eyes, and that night I'd try and go to sleep, and it was agony. And so I'd go up to the hospital and get it dug out. But I didn't learn. I kept on going back and getting more in my eyes. I now know. But again, I wasn't educated. Okay, we weren't told all these things. It wasn't compulsory to have safety glasses in our workplaces, so we didn't have them. But now we do. Okay. Fumes. When I was about 20, I decided to fix up an old Ford I had. And I welded up all the rust. They were rust buckets, and I cleaned up the floor. Someone had put all this black tarry stuff all over the car to rust proof it. I had no sense, and I would be welding, and I'd be breathing all these fumes. I got so sick from doing that, I ended up at the doctor's, had chest x-rays. They told me I had the lungs of a really old person because of all the fumes I breathed in. Luckily it wasn't, I don't think it was a permanent damage. It could have been, but it wasn't permanent, and my lungs cleaned up over time. But yeah, that was silly. I should have had a respirator on, or I should have cleaned up all that tar that was there before I tried to burn it off. So fumes can be very deadly, very bad to your health, okay?
Yes, sir.
Looks like none of my videos are working today, so we'll run those videos after the presentation. All right. What is hazardous? Sorry, how can you say?
Hazardous.
Hazardous. No. Hazardous. There we go. Hazardous. It'll come out sooner or later. Once I get my tongue twisted and I can't say the word right, I'm hopeless. Hazardous materials. Okay, what are hazardous materials?
Chemicals.
Chemicals are hazardous.
Hazardous.
Oh my God! I go back home, I think.
Gas.
Hazardous materials. Okay, hazardous materials handling is work which requires a person. Okay, this is not just chemicals. Okay, not just chemicals. Okay, it's also we're talking about manual handling now. So we're not talking about chemicals. Yes, chemicals can be hazardous. I'm really stuck. Okay, but hazardous materials or manual lifting is work which requires a person to use force to lift, to lower, to push, to pull, to move, to hold, to restrain something. Okay, there's a question in your assessment about that. So remember that. Are you listening?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What did I say?
There's a question in the assessment.
Good. Good.
I think.
I don't want anyone to get it wrong there.
No one is listening.
No one's listening. All right. So why would I call those things hazardous? Why would I call it hazardous?
It causes injury.
Because it's dangerous.
And it's a risk.
It's a high risk.
It's a high risk. Okay. Okay. So how are we going to minimise that risk?
We could follow the rules.
Follow the rules? What are the rules? Sorry?
Stay home.
What did you say?
Stay home.
Stay home.
Stay home?
Stay home. Stay
I'll
home.
stay home. They would fix everything, wouldn't it? Are we going to lift correctly? Are we going to lift like this?
No, sir.
We're going to lift like this?
Deadlift, yes.
Yes. Are we going to ask for help to push something or use some sort of lifting device to help move something? If we
So I
have
use
to?
the lifting device.
Are we going to ask for other help if we've got to push a car? Are we going to, make sure if we're lifting something, we're not going to lift it unnecessarily or higher than we need to and all those things? There's a lot of things we're going to look at.
Last attempt.
So, manual handling is any activity that requires a person to lift, Are we doing assessments now? Please don't.
Yes.
Please don't do assessments because I need you to listen, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right? Okay. I asked Nina not to put the assessments up until after the class, and I'm going to make that happen in the future because we need to be concentrating on what we're doing, okay?
Yes.
All right. Now, manual handling is any activity that requires a person to lift, lower, push, pull, carry an object. Almost the same as what I just said a minute ago.
Yes.
Must be important to say it twice. Okay, incorrect manual handling causes many workshop injuries. Good handling habits that reduce the risk of injury include storing items at waist height. Makes sense, doesn't it? Particularly if it's something that's being used all the time. I had a rack of 20-litre drums of oils at my work, be on the ground, a middle row, a second row, and a high row. So the oils that we used mostly were at the waist level, okay, to make it easier. The oils that were least used were further up to save, having to lift more than we had to. So just to be sensible when we're storing things away. Okay, planning the lift. So if we know we're going to lift something that's a bit awkward, don't just jump into it and hurt your back. Have a think about it. Can I use?
Ask for assistance.
Yeah, ask for assistance.
Bend
Good.
your knees.
Bend your knees, yes. Maybe there's a lifting device. Maybe a transmission jack we use. We don't lift the transmission out manually. All right. Using correct lifting techniques, we talked about. Using correct lifting equipment. Always lifting within our comfort zone. That's important. We're not going to lift something that's too heavy for us. Brian the other day lifted this differential, and I was worried that was too much for him. He was the man. He picked it up and he brought it along and he put it. Right. Where's Brian today?
Not here. That's the thing.
Brian
Broke his back.
Brian
Broke his back for the lifting the differential. Back is broken.
All right. He'll probably have to watch this now to catch up, so he'll maybe get the message to come. Okay. Always lifting within your comfort zone. Using lifting equipment for heavy loads. Seeking help, as you said, Isaac. Seeking help from others to reduce the effort. Have a look. Does that look like what we should be doing?
Yes.
Anyone disagree?
Bending your knees, not your back.
So we all practice lifting those wheels into the car, the spare wheel. We all did that correctly.
Yep, we did. We also took pictures.
Has anyone injured their back before?
Abhishek,
yeah. Abhishek?
Yeah.
You have?
He fell in the shower.
Did you? I believe you. For whatever reason, my videos aren't playing, so we keep moving on. All right. We're moving on now to work practices. What's work practices? Good housekeeping. Okay? Keeping the workplace clean and well organised makes it safer, especially by minimising the risk of trip and slip hazards. Keeping workbenches clean. Who thinks of the workshop we go to? Who thinks David is a clean worker?
David Beckham.
Sorry? No, David from the workshop. He's a very messy worker. He has a very cluttered up bench system, and he's got a little bit of organisation. His tools are there, but he leaves things everywhere. That's a very poor and bad habit. Shushem? Where's Shushem?
Yeah.
Are you a bad organiser for your workplace, Shushem? No. You're not? No. Well, Benny was to say you are, so. Yeah. She's a liar. She's a liar. So, does it take more time to put tools away than not to? This is a serious question. Does it take more time?
No.
Does it save time?
Does it take more time to what?
Put tools away than not to?
Yes, sir.
Who says yes?
It does take more time to put the tools away, though.
No.
In the overall scheme of the job, does it take more time?
No.
In the overall scheme, it depends.
It depends. I'm going to disagree with anyone who says it does take more time.
No, it doesn't.
Because it saves time when you're looking for the spanners when you need them next. It also saves time because when the spanner's missing, you know where it is. Yeah. But it also makes it safer for us to work in. Okay. Good housekeeping makes for more efficient working environment and displays professionalism. I like that word, professionalism.
Professionalism.
Okay, I think that if nothing else, we need to be professional. Okay, any backyarder can do certain jobs that we might be able to do, but only we can do it professional. Okay, I want to teach you that. To be professional, to be professional means a lot of things. It means we do things correctly. Okay, it means we don't leave grease marks on cars. It means that we clean up after the job. It means that we respect the customer's car. I wish we had some mudguard covers, which I'm hoping to get soon. I wish we had some seat covers, because they're all good practices of being professional, okay?
Last week they put the grease on your car.
Oh, you're the culprit. Hell, I know who did it. I was going to get the scientific lab out to do a fingerprint and work it out, but now I know. Okay, guys. So yeah, I think being professional has to be part of our lessons. Part of our. Abby, are you paying attention? Shishim, no, Shimon, are you paying attention? Michelle,
Yeah.
good. Good.
Yeah.
I want everyone to pay attention. Even though it might be repetitive, I want to make sure you all know this stuff, okay?
Yes, sir.
Why do I want you to know this? Because it's the basics of being safe in our workshop that matters, okay? All right? I don't want to be responsible for someone having an accident on my call. All right. Now, identifying slip and trip hazards. Slip and trip hazards include items such as airlines, power cords, oil and fuel spills. These should be dealt with immediately to prevent personal injury. There's an assessment question possibly on this assessment, and it goes something like, and I'm telling you a few things so you get them right, okay? But I'm saying it because I want you to understand, but also I want you to learn, okay? There's a question out there saying if there's oil on the ground, as long as I deal with that oil spill, it's okay, but I need to get the customer's car out the front because he's in the office waiting. Is that a true or false statement? Can I hear it? It's false. Why is it false?
Clean the mess first.
You clean up the mess first. Why am I wanting to clean up the mess first? Why? Because that's not an answer. Sorry?
Health and safety.
No, more than that.
Because meanwhile, if you are getting the car out for the customer, delivering the car to the customer,
Yes,
someone else might slip down.
that's what I want to hear. Because there's a risk for someone to slip in that oil, okay? Top of the class finish. I'll forgive you for those grease marks now. All right. Who likes to look at these tools? Are they well organised?
Yes, sir.
What about this workshop? Is that well organised?
Yes.
What about this workshop?
Yes.
If you had a job and you were told you could work in this workshop or that workshop, which one would you choose?
Right one.
Left one.
Left. I choose the right one.
Because there's one car.
The right one?
Yeah.
The one that doesn't have the cross?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the left one will take more time to find the tool.
Do you think a place, do you think if you worked in a place like this, right, apart from being much safer, right, do you think you'd be much happier working in a place like this? Or would you be happier working in a place like that?
Anyway.
You think you'd be happier in the left one? So we have someone, there's always someone very smart in my classes. Which guy's saying, this guy's got jobs in his workshop, so there's more chance of him saying employee, where this one's got no cars in his workshop. Wrong answer, but yes, I get you. But look, the clean workshop environment is going to be more attractive to want to work in. I would imagine with staff shortages like it is today, if your place of work is a very tidy, very organised, very well-run workshop, it's going to attract the right people to come to that workshop. It's going to mean that more likely the staff will want to stay there. So there's a lot of reasons outside of being safe for a clean workshop. It also looks very professional. Okay. In my father's day, he had a couple of row of service stations. He always said an untidy workshop meant a busy workshop, but I don't agree with him. Okay, definitely don't agree. A tidy workshop can still be a busy workshop. Okay, it's just running more efficiently. And today, we need to look professional. We need to look like we have a caringness about the way we do things, because people will trust us with their cars more. Okay, but apart from that, it's also about safety. Another video that's not working? Oh, all right. So listen to me more now. Workplace practices. Okay. Oversee personal hygiene. Okay, hygiene is part of our work health and safety requirements. Okay, you two. I'll have to.
Oh, sorry.
You will be sorry. You will be, but when I make you stay back after class. All right. Hygiene. What's hygiene? Do we wash our hands after we go to the toilet?
Yes, sir.
Do we wash our hands before we eat?
Yes, sir.
Do we keep our germs to ourselves? If we're not well, do we wear a mask these days, or do we use a handkerchief?
Yes,
You know, are we maybe going to stay home so we don't spread germs if it comes to it?
Yes.
Now, all those things we need to be conscious of, because we run the risk then of other people's health getting catching what we've got. Do we want that? I suppose if I worked with Isaac and I didn't like Isaac, I'd probably hate Isaac. No. But no, we don't want that, do we? All right. So, it is helpful for yourself and others to consider staying at home when you're sick. Always wash your hands and always wear correct PPE, okay?
PPE.
Yes, sir.
What's PPE mean? We all know. Good, good. Do you have work health and safety in Fiji? Do you
Yes, we have, but we don't make use of it.
We don't take it. Wrong answer. We're not in Fiji now.
It's just for the safety.
Okay. Machine and equipment safety. Okay. Equipment includes things like safety stands, floor jacks, and engine crane lifts. Machines normally have rotating or cutting components and are extremely externally powered by electricity, hydraulic, or compressed air. So anything that's hydraulically operated, that's got moving components and that, we need to be aware of those moving components. Most cases, machinery will have warning stickers over it, they'll have guard covers over it. There'll be safety means in those machinery to try and keep it as safe as possible. But we also need to be aware of the risk, okay? And to be sure that we don't use anything that the guard's missing on, that means that there's more of a risk that we would get our hands caught in it. So we need to be careful, okay? The standard operation procedures I talked about earlier. Every piece of machinery of the workplace must have its standard operation procedures attached with a minimum at the following information. So at least it's got to have the manufacturer's operation instructions, associated safety hazards, and any recommended PPE that's related to that machine, okay? So that will be normally a sticker on it, but also a hand manual maybe in the office, okay, that we have all that. Also, I'm not sure, it might come up in the slide, if we've never had experience in working on a certain machinery, we mustn't operate that machinery until we get experience, okay, or get taught. You right up, Lawrence? Whose phone was that I heard?
AB. Huh? No, my phone is not working.
I might have to bring all the phones up the front here and be like a school teacher, right?
Yeah.
All right. Workplace practices using a vehicle hoist. I know everyone here's used a hoist now. You've all got it reasonably down packed. I hope you have anyhow. But to follow all workshop safety work policies, inspect your vehicle hoist daily. Do not block or overload controls. What's that mean? Do not block or overload controls.
The controls, you don't block it.
How do you block it?
Just put something there.
Yeah, so don't manually force the controls to work without you operating it yourself. So don't force something on and walk away. Okay, never exceed the lift beyond its Hickory SWL stands for safe.
Safety.
Safe working load.
Safe working load. Okay, so that's the safe load. Machinery will probably go over that load, but we should never exercise that and put anything more than what the load is designed to have. Okay, often you can be careful, you can have too much weight on the back of a hoist. If a car's fully loaded, a work car comes in and it's loaded up with a compressor and work tools and who knows what, and it's all loaded at the back. We need to have that back of that car unloaded. Maybe get the customer to take it away and unload it and bring it back to us. Don't overload the hoist, okay? Also, never position the vehicle and the hoist correctly. Always keep the hoist area free of debris. So if we've got a lot of junk under the hoist, particularly if we're letting the car down, we could disable the car as it comes down. If a oil can stand was under the car and we forgot to move that out of the road, we could topple the car over, particularly if we weren't paying attention. So always clean up before we let the car down. Always keep the hoist area free. I just said that. Do not run over the lift arms. You know those arms on the two-post hoist? Okay, has anyone ever run over those?
The what?
Those arms that come in and out?
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
You have?
Yes.
Bad boy. You damage things on those arms, you put stress on those arms. Best to double check things before we drive the car out. One of my staff that worked for me, we put a new hoist in at my workplace, and he suggested I put the controls for the hoist on the left side, not the driver's side. Why would that be? It made sense when he told me why. Okay, those arms, right, when you let the car down, you automatically move those arms out when you let the car down on the side that the controls are on. Often the left side, or the side that's opposite the controls, is the side that gets forgotten to be pulled out. So if I got called away and came back, or someone else saw the car down on the ground, thought they'd drive it off. Okay, if it's on the left side, if the controls are on the right side, sorry, you've moved the right side in, but not the left side. When you hop in the car, to drive the car, you hop on the driver's side. So if the controls are on the left side, you'll automatically see those arms then on the side you hop in. And that was his thinking. I like that thinking, you know. That's what happens with work health and safety. We pool different ideas like that together to make the workplace a little bit safer. Okay? So that was great. I took that on board. All right. Okay. Vehicle, I think I've just done that. That's better. Again, we're talking about what? Safe working load. Okay, the hoist will have a safe work load, the jacks will have a safe working load, your jack stands will have a safe working load. I suspect those jack stands we've got inside, we should have a look later, won't have a very high safety working load, or because they're very small. If we had a big heavy four-wheel drive, we probably wouldn't want to use them. Okay, machine and equipment safety again. Talking about air, how many times have I told you we don't blow the dust off our clothes, we don't point the air at people? Why don't we do those things?
It has high pressure, you know.
It's high pressure, and what can happen to the air?
Then go inside your skin.
It can go inside the skin, is that good?
No, it's
not good at all. And also we can blow stuff into our eyes, okay? When we're blowing, we might use the air to blow the floor down. And someone's near us, we could blow stuff in their eyes. So best to use the air compressed air for what it's designed for, not for what we could do to keep it safe. Our 240 volt. There's not so many 240 volt power tools now in a workshop because we've all got safer with these battery operated tools. So we're much safer in that sense. But anything that's electrically operated needs to be safe. We need to have it inspected by an electrician regularly, every 6 months I think it is. We need to have it tagged. We need to see that tag's current, and we can get it electrocuted. Is it safe to run a cord along the wet floor when we're using 240 volts?
No.
Why is that? Why couldn't we get electrocuted?
Wet flow.
What's water do? Is
Water
is a conductor.
water is conducting electricity.
It does. So that's why. Okay. So so we must test and tag all electric equipment. Most car hoists observe the safe operating procedures. We've said that and we'll keep saying that. Jacks, again, we need to check that we don't overload a jack or jack stands. And always check for the manufacturer's recommended jack positions. Okay? And machine equipment, again, all equipment must be safe to operate, and we must have the SOP, safe operation procedures, on the machine, so we all know, okay? And always follow the safe operation procedures. Always follow the employer's policies and procedures when using any equipment. This includes the operation of a motor vehicle. In my procedures, and I think it's the same here with our college, we talk about bringing cars into a workshop. We talk about driving very slowly, being observant that we don't have a risk of anyone in the road when we're driving. Someone could be lying under a car. We don't want to run over anyone. And in my own workshop, when I had my business, we used to honk the horn because we'd come down an alleyway and turn into the shop, and that horn was a signal that there was a car coming in. Okay. We also used to wind the driver's window down so we could hear if anyone was in the road and they screamed out, we could hear. So we had a lot of safety consciousness procedures that we had to follow. Okay. Never use any equipment never use any equipment if the safety guards are not correctly fitted. We talked about the car hoists will have these long surrounds, metal guards around all the moving cables and pulleys. We have those there to keep us safe, okay? So we don't use it if those guards are missing. If equipment is unsafe, as for example it's damaged or missing safety guards, bring this to the supervisor's attention. So whoever's your supervisor, your foreman, person in charge, your work health and safety representative, whoever it is that you need to, let them know so everyone knows, okay? In a small workshop, you probably just let everyone know. All right. I highlighted this here. Okay, accidents are caused by people not thinking, not following instructions, or not putting their training into practice. How true? It's very, very true.
Pretty true.
90% of accidents happen when people are careless. Okay, because they're not operating with a careful mind. Okay, things like they do not observe safe lifting techniques. They overload or improper use of the car hoist or vehicle jacks. Incorrect use and abuse of plant and equipment. Do not keep their tools and equipment in good working order. Okay. Forget to work safety with chemicals related to So our chemicals, we might just dive in without our bare hands. That's not a good idea. Or we might not put our respirator on and we breathe in some acid fumes. Did I ever tell you the story about John? You know, you've met John?
John.
My brother?
Yes.
He worked for me years ago. I'd love him to be here today to tell the story. But he was doing an air conditioning job for me on the car. We listening? He was doing an air conditioning job in the car, and somehow the pipe broke. It wasn't it wasn't expected to break. He got a mouthful of refrigeration gas. He swallowed. What does that do? Can anyone imagine? It freezes all your breathing tubes. He couldn't breathe. How serious is that?
Very serious.
He ended up going to hospital. He ended up, you could see he lived to tell another day, to tell another story. But how serious was that? So what do we need? We need masks when we're working with air conditioning. You know, full face masks so that doesn't happen again. Okay, so we learned something that day. Very important. Okay. So failure to use your PPE includes your footwear and ignoring safety signs. What did I say?
The bin.
You like the picture? That can only happen in India or Fiji. Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
As long as his timber is safety, as long as he uses SOP with his timber, he'll be okay, won't he?
I don't like timber. I like
So do we think that's a good? Do we think that's a safe practice?
No,
It's not a safe practice at all.
Don't do do that.
Okay. No. Simon. Come on, we're watching.
Yeah.
Right, no, Simon. You don't need to. Everyone needs to be attention. All right.
My ears are there, my eyes.
Okay. Do we need to stand up? We've only got 15 minutes for morning tea.
Yes,
Are we
sir.
okay to keep going?
Yes, yes, sir.
Good. Can Lawrence, can you see? I can't see your eyes. A little bit better. A little bit better. Am I that ugly, Lawrence? We won't go. I know it's cold. All right. Okay. So vehicle safety. We're talking about vehicle safety, okay? Okay. This includes, when we're working on a car, we've got moving parts. We all know about that. We've got fans that come on and off. We've got fan belts, engines running. We need to be aware of loose clothing, long hair, all those things. Jewelry. Why is it such a big deal that we're not allowed to wear jewelry?
They can get stuck.
Electrocuted, or not even. Probably we won't get electrocuted at 12 volts, but there are high voltages in cars now, so that we could do it, but we'll get badly burnt. If we get current flowing through something because it's shorting out on our ring, and it's coming through our body on our ring, it's going to really burn us. Okay, so we need to be careful. All right. We also need to be careful of the temperature of things. A radiator, for example. Do we remove the radiator cap at any time?
No.
So we're mindful of it being hot, and we could have water burning us. Okay, if it's under pressure when we open up the cap. Are we going to grab hold of the exhaust whilst the car's just been put on the hoist? No, it could be burning. So there's things to be mindful of. Also, electrical hazards. Some components in the modern vehicles, such as ignition systems, some fuel injectors, and some headlight systems have high voltage. Wearing jewelry, such as rings and necklace chains, increase the risk of electrocution, but also burning. Okay? Okay, we have batteries in cars. Back in my days, in the early days, most batteries were these maintenance-free batteries. They had little screw caps on them, they had vents on them, and acid, particularly if they got overcharged, they would fume up with this acid, and they were very inflammable. There was a place I worked for in Lismore years ago, and across the road was an auto electrician place. They used to leave their batteries on charge overnight. One morning they came to work to find out that, Mohammed's here. Amazing. Wasn't expecting to see you today, Mohammed. Welcome. Anyhow, one day they came back to work to find their whole place burnt down. That's because they used to charge their batteries at night, and something ignited that battery. Okay? What can ignite the fumes? Static electricity. It could have been a storm that night. I don't know, but something ignited the fumes in that room. So we have to be mindful of batteries. I don't think they're as dangerous as they were back in my days. I used to wear overalls when I was younger, and I go to work, and we used to charge batteries quite often. I'd pick up batteries and hold them on my stomach and walk over and put them on the bench and charge them. I used to get holes all through my overalls from the acid spilling out. And when a battery used to charge, you take the caps off, and they'd bubble over sometimes, and you have acid. And so we used to just wet down the acid. The concrete on the floor where those batteries used to get charged used to be very white, but very pitted because of the acid that used to leak out of those batteries. So we still need to be mindful of batteries and to be careful. To probably put something on our clothes to protect our clothes when we're handling batteries. but also to be aware that there can be a fire risk. Fuel systems in diesels and natural gases, we need to be careful of those. Things can be like that. I've seen actually, there was a rag, an oily rag that we used to wipe down a bench once in a waste bin, and I was doing some welding, and it caught on fire because of the oil that was on that rag. It was a high ceiling, and the flame went from the bin to the ceiling. It was quite amazing. It went. So, yeah, luckily we had fire extinguishers and we got under control. But that accident was an accident waiting to happen. Had I been more careful, it wouldn't have happened because I would have realised and moved the bin away. So things like that is talked about earlier when we said we need to be mindful of what we're doing and plan our jobs and plan it around safe practice before we start those jobs. Look around us before we weld. Make sure we can move things down the road that could catch on fire. We need to be aware of the high voltage in batteries now, particularly hybrid cars and electric vehicles. Most batteries that have high voltage have got yellow cables. Some have red cables, but most of them are yellow, not yellow, orange, sorry, orange cables. So orange or red cables they can have. There's a warning that high voltage cables, to be aware of that, okay?
I see.
If we ever push a car, so we pull the transmission or something out of the car and we're pushing it, be mindful that you're generating electricity at the generator. Actually, if you pull the transmission out, you've actually disabled the electric motor on most electric or hybrid cars. But if you pull the motor out, the transmission is where the generator is. They have two generators in most hybrid cars. And you start pushing that car, and you've got cables hanging loose, and you might have disconnected the battery, but you're still generating voltage when you push that car. So be careful of things like that. Okay, signs. We have a lot of different signs in our workplace. So many different signs. We get bombarded with signs. I think we condition ourselves to signs to understand where we have a picture. We have a picture here of eyes with big glasses on. What's that as a symbol? Eye protection, air protection, hard hat, safety boots, gloves. So we pretty much have conditioned ourselves to these things.
Life jacket.
Life jacket.
The last one.
That's actually a high vest, thank you. High vest. So, be aware of signage and take note of signage, okay? There's different types of signage. Signs that prohibit us, signs that are mandatory, signs that are warning, and often they're colour-coded. So if it's a mandatory code where we have to wear our eye protection, it'll be in blue. If it's a warning, it's more likely to be in a yellow. If it's a danger or a prohibited sign, in red. Again, if it's totally in red like that, it's often a fire sign. Green is obviously medical and emergency signs, and yellow is danger. We probably subconsciously get used to these colours to warn us, but it's good to be sure. We can have general signage. We're bombarded with general signage, and they can be any colour. Yeah. Okay, firefighting equipment. Who knows where the fire extinguishers are in this college?
On the wall.
Where? You've seen them?
Yes.
Did you get told that in your induction class?
No.
You didn't?
No. Yes.
Some say yes, some say no.
But he forgot.
You forgot? I hope you did. I hope you did. But it's important that you know where the fire extinguisher is. If we have a fire. Have you heard about the fire I had in my car?
No, sir.
You haven't? You want to hear about it?
Yes.
I was doing a big trip in my highlights. I had it all set up. I had drawers that pulled out from when I opened up the tailgate that had a lot of gear in it. I had a big fridge that came down and came on my tailgate. I had a hot water system that was in the back of my car with an LPG bottle, a portable LPG bottle, and I had a window that slid at the side of my canopy that would pull out my shower. I had a little cubicle that came out that I could pull out when I pulled up, and I could go and have a shower, a hot shower, wherever I wanted. I had a big water tank in the back of my car. Now, this day, we've been over all this corrugated dirt road, four-wheel drive track, pulled up, and I was actually filling up our dishwashing bucket to clean up after a meal. And I pulled the trigger and would automatically ignite the gas to heat up the water. I pulled it and I had a look and I go, oh, there's flames coming out of my car, inside my car. Anyhow, my wife was around the other side. She had the, she had one look in the car. She yells out, fire, fire. We have people from everywhere running to us. I had a fire extinguisher in the car. I grabbed hold. First off, I had the sense to hop in the back of the car and turn off the gas bottle. I had that sense, but it didn't stop the flames because there's still gas in the back there that was still ignited. I got the fire extinguisher. I didn't familiarise myself with this fire extinguisher. I got it and I saw the blue nozzle on the end. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I take this blue nozzle off so I can use the squirter? In the meantime, someone else came with their fire extinguisher from another campsite and put out the fire. At the end of the day, that blue nozzle was not meant to come off as part of the hose. So, had I familiarised myself, which I should have done, there would have been no thinking. I would have just gone. So, it is so important to familiarise ourselves. My car was okay. I burnt the lining inside, the roof lining. Everything else was okay. From that day on, I eliminated the risk. How did I eliminate the risk? When I travelled, the gas was turned off. When I came to using hot water, the gas bottle went out the window and outside. And I hung it off outside the car, so if there was another risk of a fire, it would happen outside. But I also made sure that pipe was tight, so it didn't happen again. So yeah, so accidents happen and we learn from those accidents and we actually use those accidents, hopefully, to maybe lessen the risk for future accidents of the same. If we don't, there's something wrong, isn't there? We're in trouble waiting to happen if we don't. All right. So, what does a fire equipment mean? Fire equipment is equipment designed to extinguish fires or protect us from fires. It may be used by trained firefighters, untrained users at the scene of a fire, or built into the building's infrastructure. So in the building's infrastructure downstairs, we have a reel, don't we? We've seen that reel under the building. I have anyhow. So we have a fire reel. Any of us can use that if we have a fire. There's a fire extinguisher out there. Any of us can use that if we have a fire. Okay? We shouldn't use it if we don't have a fire. So don't get ideas. But we do need to make sure we know how to use it. Okay? We do definitely need. Okay. There are different fire extinguishers that are used for different types of fires. Did we know that? Yes. Did we know that one fire extinguisher is not going to do it all? Okay? So, for example, if we just had water as a fire extinguisher, which we can do, the only good that that's going to be is if we have a paper or wood fire. It's not going to help us if we have a liquid fire or a flammable gas fire or a flammable materials, a metals fire, or electrical fire, or a cooking fat fire. Okay? If we come down to a dry chemical, which is A, B, and E, A, B, and E. These are the different classifications of a fire extinguisher as to what they can actually put out or not put out. Okay? So if we had, for example, a flammable, or say a gas leak that we're talking about in my car that I had, I could not use this dry chemical powder, okay, because it would not be the right fire extinguisher. But if, we don't have any fluoride gas, we're in trouble, aren't we, for my car? Gee, we're in big trouble. But anyhow, just to be aware of the different colours, and they put different colour bands to identify the different types of fire extinguishers. Also, they have a picture. They have a picture of the type of fire. Later today, we'll go look at our fire extinguishers and have a look. You right, Vinny? We'll have a look, okay? So these down here are the different things that these classes can use, obviously indicated on that graph. Fire extinguishers need to be kept in serviceable condition. When Mohammed did the course with me last year, we discovered that the fire extinguishers had not been serviced properly. They were, well, when I say properly, they were overdue to be serviced, is what I mean to say. I hope when we go out, we find that they're up to date. But something just tells me we won't. I hope I'm wrong. All right. See the fire? Okay, what caused that fire? There's been a source of ignition, there's been a source of fuel, and there's been oxygen. We need all those three things to have a fire. Okay? So fires don't just start by themselves. So someone might be smoking. I hope we don't smoke in the workplace because we're no longer allowed to. But you know, in the old days when people used to smoke, I've seen someone in the old days go out and serve someone petrol before we had self-serve petrol with a cigarette in their mouth, filling up with petrol. We don't do that. What a risk that is. Candles, we probably don't have in the workplace. We don't need for a candle, but you know, in our houses, many fires are started by burning candles when they've lost power or whatever, or saving power. Yeah, all these things. They're saying all these things are open to igniting fuel because they're an open fuel source. Hot processes such as welding. I told you about my experience with welding. Okay, listen. Faulty or missing electrical equipment, lighting equipment, halogen lamps or display lamps that are too close to curtains or something that can catch on fire, okay? Hot surfaces and obstruction of equipment for ventilation to let the hot air out, I guess. So there's a lot of reasons we can have fires, okay?
Okay.
All right, time for a break. Time for a break. It's now 10:30. Can we have a 15-minute break, please?
50?
15? I know that means 20 minutes, but let's get back as soon as we can. Hello.